Hey friends, are you ready for some more primitive farmhouse fall DIYs? Well then come craft with me. I'm Sarah and welcome to my channel, Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button so that you can craft with me in the future. And now let's get right into these fall's DIYs. So I was out thrifting the other day and I came across this well-used bunt pan. It was $3.99, but oh my goodness, it has definitely seen better days. And I thought, you know what, this really doesn't look like it's anything that is fit to be cooking anymore. The enamel's chipped, the paint's chipping off. It was definitely well used at one time, but I don't really think anybody was going to buy that for its intended purpose. So I thought this would actually make a really cute pumpkin. So that's what we're going to do with it. I'm going to start off by taking a little bunt pan here. I'm going to start giving it a coat of orange paint. Now, I really liked the kind of green flaky paint that was underneath. The actual color of it, I thought was really pretty. And I thought, I wonder if I can use this to my advantage somehow in this. Because have you ever seen those orange and green kind of pumpkin, warty like pumpkins that are in the pumpkin patches? They're really cute. And that's what that green and the orange kind of reminded me of. So I thought maybe I can use this to my advantage here. So I started using this acrylic paint. This is from the Dollar Tree. And if you've ever used the Dollar Tree's paints before, you'll notice they're a little thinner than, like, say, Apple Barrel's paints, for example, and definitely a whole lot thinner than what chalk paint would be. So I took this acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree and I started applying it. And as you can see, even after going over now a second coat, you can still see right through it to that green paint underneath. I ended up going over this with a third coat even. And it was kind of getting the effect I wanted, but not quite covering enough, if that makes sense. So I decided to then go in with Apple Barrel's paint in the color pumpkin and just give it a really light little coat over top. I thought maybe this will be the trick it needed, and it sure was. This added a little bit of color dimension because the color is actually a little brighter, whereas the Dollar Tree orange paint had a more burnt orangey kind of look when it went over top of the green. So this added a little bit of orange color variation and it turned out exactly once it was done. As you can see, it kind of has that orange and green pumpkin look. So once my paint had dried, I wanted to start distressing this a little bit because I want this to be a nice primitive farmhouse looking pumpkin. So I went in with my Waverly Antique Wax and I'm just dry brushing it over the top here. And I'm definitely paying close attention to these little grooves because I want to accentuate those, the highlights of those, so kind of give that the pumpkin groove effect. I want those to be seen. And I'm just dry brushing this all over. And as you notice, I did not paint the inside of my little bunt pan here. And that's because there's going to be a stem that goes over that. You're not going to see it. So why paint it? After that's dried, I went in with my matte finish Mod Podge and I started adding some of the Mod Podge to my bunt pan. And then I'm just taking some just ground cinnamon and I'm going to sprinkle it here and there into my wet Mod Podge and pushing it down. We're going to give this a nice little grunge coating. If you prefer the clean look, you could absolutely just skip all this and paint it solid orange and it would be beautiful as well. Spray paint would actually work really well for that. Probably be a little easier, or a chalk paint if that's the route you were going. But I'm just going to keep adding my matte finish Mod Podge in sections here and then just sprinkling my cinnamon around my pan. And I'm not going to do a full coat of cinnamon. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it here, there, and just kind of mix it around. After I've got my cinnamon grunging on to my liking, I'm going to go back in with another coat of the Mod Podge, and I'm just going to coat this whole thing and all of the cinnamon in Mod Podge. That's going to seal all the cinnamon in, and you might see your cinnamon smearing a little bit, kind of like a little cinnamon paste, and that's okay, totally be expected. It just kind of adds that whole grunging look. I wish you could smell through the video, because this project really does smell wonderful. That's the great thing about grunging with cinnamon. It just smells so good. Now, once my little bunt pan is completely covered with the Mod Podge, I'm going to go back in with my cinnamon one more time. And I'm just going to do a light sprinkle over top of that wet Mod Podge. And this time, though, I'm not going to add another layer of Mod Podge over top. I'm just going to let that dry in the Mod Podge, and this is the effect. You kind of get a multicolor effect with that cinnamon. You get the darker tones underneath from the Mod Podge paste with the cinnamon, and then the lighter bit on top with the cinnamon you just sprinkled on top. Now for a stem for this, I am going to be using, once again, my little paper bag stems. If you've missed that video, I'll link it down below. And the only difference with this one is that I left the bottom of my bag flat instead of opening it when I made it. I wanted to make sure this one was big enough to cover that hole in the center of the pan, but it ended up needing trimmed up anyway, so it wasn't, I guess, really necessary. It didn't matter. But I'm just going to hot glue my stem right here in the center of my bunt pan and make sure those edges are pressed down real good. And then I'm going to go in with, of course, some Spanish moss, which, you know, I love my Spanish moss. And I'm going to hot glue that right around the stem here. That's going to not only embellish it, but hide the bottom of that bag and the edges of it. And I'm just going to go around and make sure that the edges are glued down really good, or fill in any spots that look a little sparse. And if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to give this video a like, and if you haven't done so already, I really hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button so that you can craft with me in the future. I would love to have you join me again, and also drop me a comment, say hello, and let me know which of today's projects are your favorite, and if you think you'll be trying any of them. I absolutely love reading all of your comments. I always try to read them all. I always try to respond to each one of you if I can. So if I do miss one every once in a while, please forgive me. But I really do enjoy hearing from all of you. So once my Spanish moss is glued down, I'm going to take this burlap leaf. This is from the Dollar Tree. And as you can see, it has a wire that's already attached to it. And I'm just going to take that and wrap around my pumpkin stem. And next I'm going to take this little pitberry ring. This was just a ring I had, and I've been ripping it apart for other projects. So I'm just going to finish unraveling it in these little bundles here. There's 4 little bundles left, and it's like a sage green and a cream colored with rusty stars that is on it. So I just unravel these, pull apart really, really easily. And I'm going to start just using the wire, end of the little bundle of the pitberry wire, to wrap around the stem, and I'm going to kind of crisscross these on each side, put 2 on one side and 2 on the other, or should I say 2 facing the opposite directions on my pumpkin. 2 going one way, 2 going the other. Here you can see the colors a little bit in these. Really pretty, like, embellishments for the fall with the sage green and the cream and the rust colors. And pitberries, you can find these on Amazon, on Factory Direct, on KP Creek Prims. I'll leave links down in my description box, as always, of places you can find these. Thrift stores are also a really great place to look for pitberries too. Sometimes you can, maybe as a wreath that had them on them, or you can rip it off and tear them apart, or Sometimes you'll just find the actual garlands and stuff there. Now I'm going to take this wire. This was the actual wire that the pitberry ring was wired to start with, and it's a pretty thick wire. And I'm just going to take and bend it around here and then curl the ends. I'm going to use this as my little pumpkin trindles because, well, I already have the wire, so why not use it? Waste not, want not, right? So I'm just going to slide that over my stem and pull it a little tight, and that will be my little pumpkin tendrils. And I'm going to try to bend these edges down. I don't want a sharper edge sticking up, so I just want to tilt them down a little bit. But gosh, this wire really was kind of difficult to bend. Next, I'm going to take this homespun fabric. This is a black and cream gingham. I absolutely love this fabric for fall. And I'm just going to rip a strip, and I'm just going to make a just little simple fabric bow here out of it. I'm also going to take these drop cloth scraps that I had. This is just a regular old painter's drop cloth. You can find at Lowe's, you can find them on Amazon, but I use them quite a bit in crafting. And these were just some scrap strips that I had left over, just kind of sitting there and I thought this will be perfect to use it on. So you can use, if you have a little, bow dabra or other bow making machine, you can do that, but I'm just laying it out, folding over my little loops, and I'm going to make 3 loops on each side. And leave my 2 little tails. I'm going to take my little scraps of canvas here, and I'm just going to crisscross one in the front, and then I'm going to crisscross 2 of the pieces in the back with the black and cream gingham in between. Then I'm just going to take a thin piece of twine here. I'm going to wrap it around the center and tie it off tight. Just a little messy fabric bow. I'm going to trim my little tails here. And cut off my extra twine. And I'm going to use some hot glue, and I'm going to attach it right here underneath my stem, in between my 2 little wire pumpkin tendrils, and between all my little pitberry stems. And just a little bit of hot glue holds that down perfect. Now for the center of my bow, I'm going to borrow this little rusty star. It's off another pitberry stem that I had, but you can also find rusty stars once again on like Amazon, Factory Direct, and I'm just going to hot glue it right in the center of my bow. Now the last thing I did is I thought it just needed something else, so I took 1 more of these leaves, and I wanted to add it in here right behind the original leaf. Unfortunately, with all the stuff already on it, I kind of had a hard time. I couldn't really get that wire down in there. So I'm just going to attach it using a little bit of hot glue. So I just find where I wanted to put it. And I just kind of wanted to double those a little bit, give it a little bit extra there. And then just use some hot glue to secure it in place. Oh my goodness, guys, I absolutely love how this turned out. From a $3.99 ugly little bunt pan on a thrift store shelf to an adorable little primitive farmhouse pumpkin. Okay, how many of you have seen these little cozy pumpkin throw pillars? Pottery Barn has them. They're so cute, but oh my goodness, the price. And Walmart has a version, and they're like around $12, $13 at Walmart, which is much better than the Pottery Barn price. But I thought, hey, you know what? I want to give this a shot making one of these for even less. So I have this old sweater of mine. I've been saving this for a project because the sweater was so soft, but unfortunately I had gotten a stain on the front that I absolutely could not get out. And I hated to just trash it because there was still a lot of really good fabric on this. And I thought, you know what? This will be the perfect project to repurpose this sweater. So I'm going to turn it over and lay it out. So this is the back here, and I'm going to cut up the seam across the neck and back down the other, so I kind of have like a really large rectangle. And gosh, I think all of us probably have some old sweaters laying around that have seen better days, or that we just don't use anymore, or even thrift stores, you can find them really inexpensive. I know my Goodwill on Sundays has 99-cent days of a certain color. So you could, easily find a very, very inexpensive, if not free, sweater to make this project out of. Now I'm going to save these sleeves because a couple weeks ago I showed you how to make the no-sew pumpkins using the sleeves, and that's what those are going to turn into. So I'm going to flip my fabric back over here. I had a little bit of a string hanging there I had to chop off. But I'm going to flip it over so the inside is facing up. And I'm going to grab some polyfill stuffing. Now this came from Hobby Lobby. I paid $3.57 for the whole bag, and I've used it for a lot of projects. But I ended up using about half of the bag. So still at $3.57 for the whole bag, it really didn't cost very much for that. And then I'm going to take a piece of jute twine. This is the thinner jute twine, and a yarn needle. And these yarn needles, if you don't have one, these are really, really inexpensive. You can find them at Walmart for like under $2. Amazon has them really inexpensive as well. But I'm going to string my jute twine through it. And I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to go under it and over, pull it all the way down through, and then tie the end off securely. And don't panic if you see a needle. We're not doing any major sewing. You don't have to have any sewing skills whatsoever for this. This is really, really simple. So now that that's tied off, I'm just going to take my yarn needle and my thread and go under and then back through. Under, over, and about an inch or so in between my stitches there. We're essentially just going to make a giant drawstring bag for this. These little pumpkin pillows, they're just really essentially a large stuffed pumpkin. So you could use it as a throw pillow, or you could just use it as a stuffed pumpkin to decorate somewhere in the house too, I suppose, as well. But I'm going to take, and I'm just going to string my twine all the way around the perimeter of my sweater here. And when I get to the corners, I'm not going to go to the corner. I'm going to cut a corner, so to speak. I'm just going to kind of round it off because I want to keep my stitches somewhat even. I don't want to have a big peak there. And that extra fabric will just tuck down in the end. You'll see me doing it. And I just keep kind of stuffing my stuffing back in there as I go around. Tries to escape. Now, once you get all the way around, before we tie it off, you can look and see if it needs any extra filling or any extra stuffing, which mine definitely did. Then just pull it tight so that that center just closes right up. And when you have it pulled really tight, just take that extra little tail from where you tied it off to start with and tie it off. But don't cut your string yet, just tie it off so that your little pumpkin bag stays closed. When you do these, you want the twine, make sure that you have a pretty large piece of twine to start with, because we are going to keep using this. Now is when you can tuck all those little extra edges that were sticking up from the corners down in that center. And then I'm just going back around, just kind of over, under, just around the center where that cinched up again, just to kind of tie up any of these extra fabric that's kind of hanging loose. I want it to be nice and taut. So just going back around it once again, over, under, and pulling it tightly. Tuck that extra fabric right down in there. And add a little stitch if you need to make sure it stays. And don't worry, all this will be hidden here at the top when we put our stem on. So now that that is tied off, we're going to take our remaining twine and we're going to start wrapping it around to make our little pumpkin grooves. I'm going to wrap it around once, and I want to pull it a little bit tight because I want it to pull my pumpkin a little bit, give it those grooves. And when I get back to the center, I'm going to put a small stitch in just to hold it in place. Then I'm going to go around the opposite direction and do the same thing. Nope, it popped right out of my little needle there. I'm getting close to the end. I just pulled it through and then tied it off. Like I said, don't worry about if this looks like a little bit of a mess here in the center. It's going to be completely hidden with the stem. You will never see any of it. And if you run out of twine like you see I'm doing right here, no big deal. All you do is cut yourself another piece and tie it off in the center, just like you did to start with, and keep right on going. So I'll just put it under a little piece of the fabric here, pull it through, and tie off the end. And then I go around one more time in between the other twine ridges, I guess it would be. Now for our stem, I'm going to go back to my sweater and I'm going to go back to the little front piece. This would be right in the front, right underneath the pocket, and I'm going to trim up off the zipper, and I'm just going to cut a rectangle that's about 4 to 5 inches long. And I'm going to take, and I want to roll this. Now I want the top part to be smaller than the bottom. So I'm going to kind of roll it at a little angle, almost like a little cone shape, and then hot glue it shut. So as you can see, the top is smaller than the bottom. And now the bottom, where it's larger, this is where we're going to attach it to the rest of the pumpkin. And I'm going to add some hot glue to the inside of that roll. And I'm going to start hot gluing it down. I'm going to kind of pull it out just a little bit so that it covers those twine a little bit there. And we're going to use this to build our stem on. Next, I'm going to take my 4-ply jute twine. I get this at Walmart. And I'm going to start adding some hot glue right on the outside of where the fabric stem meets the rest of the pumpkin. And I'm going to start gluing my twine down right around that. You want to make sure it's out far enough so that it hides that seam of where those two connect. Then we're just going to hot glue and wrap our twine. Keep wrapping it around and around. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to go all the way, well, not all the way. I'm going to go up my stem about 3 inches. You could make your stem as long or as short as you want, but I just want to make mine proportionate to my size pumpkin here. So I went up about 3 inches. And just make sure your twine is pushed down tight so there's no gaps in between and you see your fabric sticking out. Now, once you get your stem to a height that looks good of you, just take your scissors, your little craft scissors, and snip off any of the excess, sorry about that, material that is sticking up out of the top. And then take your hot glue and continue just to wrap your twine around till you get to the top of your fabric, and then wrap it inwards until the entire section of your fabric is covered. When you reach the center there, just snip it off and tuck your end down in your glue right there in the center. I think for the store-bought ones that are 46 or 12, I made mine for around $2. So you can't really beat that price. And I think it turned out adorable. Now for this DIY, I am going to be using this little old teapot. I found that originally at my local thrift store it was $2.99, and I actually got 75% off because the color of the day was 75% off, and lucky me. So I didn't pay very much for this at all, but this teapot had some rust spots on it. You know, didn't think it'd be very good for actually using as a teapot anymore. So I thought, let's turn this into a really cute fall little jack-o'-lantern teapot. So I'm going to start off by giving this a coat of Waverly chalk paint and the color ink. I wanted to make the base of this black, and then I'm going to go over top of it with an orange. I wanted to give it, we're going to make this a little bit distressed, and I kind of wanted to get that black showing through just a little bit through the orange. Plus the chalk paint adheres really, really well to the metal and gives it a really good coverage. So now once that is done, I was going to go over with my orange acrylic paint. Now this, I was using the Dollar Tree's acrylic orange paint once again. And it was going on looking great. It looked good when it was going on, like it was going to cover pretty well. And I was going to like it. But as you're going to see once it dried, it didn't dry quite like I had hoped it was going to. See, it did not. Nope, 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 not at all. So I wasn't giving up just yet. I decided to give it another coat. And once again, while it was wet, it was looking great. When it dried, just didn't cut it. So I gave up with that, and I went in with my apple barrel paint and the color of pumpkin, and that did the trick. The Dollar Tree paint was it's just too thin, unfortunately, for painting on metal. It just doesn't cover very well. It's great for like wood and other things, and I've used it on a ton of other projects and been fine, but I'm just finding with metal, it's just not up to par. But the apple barrel worked great. And as you can see, it's not full coverage. You can still see some of the black showing through, which is exactly what I wanted, because like I said, I'm going to distress this, and I wanted some black showing through the orange. And then I'm going to go over here, as you can see, I'm doing with my Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm just dry brushing it on and around my teapot. Just a light amount, dry brushed. I want to keep all my brush strokes kind of going the same direction, and I'm going to make sure to get around the bottom edge here on this little lip. I want it to look like an old distressed little prim pumpkin teapot. And get around the edges, all the places where something might rust or collect wear and tear over the years. Leaving a teapot around the edges, around the handle, around the bottom. And then once I've got a dry brush, I'm going back in and I'm just lightly smudging certain sections so that there's little darker spots mixed in. Just here and there. Next, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and a black Sharpie marker. And I'm going to use this to draw my little jack-o'-lantern face. And I'm going to use my marker to just outline the face to begin with. And my poor Sharpie marker here, it's seen better days. I think it's on its last leg. This might be its final project. It's barely coming out there, but I'm just going to draw just a simple little jack-o'-lantern face. You could also print one off online. There's a million different ones on clip art, things that you could print out and trace on if you wanted a very specific type of face. I just wanted a happy, cute little jack-o'-lantern face. And once I have my face outline on, I'm just going to go in with the small paintbrush and my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, and I'm just going to fill it in. And my little guy's face, it's not perfect. His eyes aren't 100% symmetrical, but that's okay. Sometimes I think that hand-drawn element, that touch of it, just adds that to that primitive, rustic look that I absolutely adore. I've wanted to make one of these for a long time, and sometimes when I'm thrifting, I always feel bad if I buy something that is still in good shape that could be used for its original purpose still by somebody. So I won't buy them. I'll wait until I can find something that's broken or, has seen better days, stuff that it really won't be used for its intended purpose anymore, or that people probably won't buy and will end up probably being thrown away in the long run because nobody will buy it. And I like to choose those items to repurpose and to give new life to. Like the old chewed up bunt pan in the first one, and this little teapot that had some rust on it. Suppose I was raised on a little bit of that Appalachian ingenuity, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it just means that nothing goes to waste. If you can reuse something, you do. And sometimes junk is just junk, and there's not a darn thing that can be done about that. But sometimes junk can turn into, say, a pumpkin. Yeah, it helps not only the environment and keep stuff out of landfills, but it also helps you save money, especially when crafting. And who doesn't like to save money crafting? I'm going to take another little strip of this black and cream gingham here, and I'm just going to tie it in a knot right around the edge of my teapot handle here on the side. Oh, and as you noticed, I forgot to mention the lid of the teapot. I just left solid black. I just wanted to have it to have a little bit of contrasting color with the rest of the teapot, so I just left it black. Now I'm going to go in with this little pitberry stems here, and I'm going to rip some of these apart. That one was a cream and a maroon one, and I just wanted the cream colored stems off of it, so yep, just yanked them right off there. Then I have this little one here. It's like a sage color, little bundles, and I'm going to start wiring my pitberries right around the handle, around the top. And I'm just going to mix the cream with the green and keep adding them in to the sides until it looks good to me. This is where you just kind of play around, get creative, move stuff around, bend it around, fill it in. There's no right or wrong. Just what looks good to you and makes you happy. And even with these pip berries, if you don't even, you can wire them to themselves too, instead of around the top, which I'm doing here to make some of them look a little fuller. I'll just take one of the cream ones and wire it around the stem of one of the green ones. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my little paper tags. These are from Amazon, and I'm going to take my fine tip Sharpie marker and I'm just going to write pumpkin spice tea. Now you could pick whatever saying you wanted to. That's what I wanted to go for, pumpkin spice tea, because while I love pumpkin spice tea, but you could also write something like witch's brew or October 31st or whatever little saying sounded good to you. And I want this to be distressed and old looking as well. So I'm going to crumple it up and then go back in with my Waverly Antique Wax and go in around the edges and put a light amount right through the middle of it and on the back to give it that nice aged paper tag look. I don't want it to look new like it was a new tag. I want it to look like it's been around a while. Then I'm going to take just a piece of the thin jute twine and I'm going to tie it onto my tag. Then I'm just going to use my twine to tie it right to the top of my teapot handle, my lid handle, right there. You could also put the tag around the handle as well. That is another option if you didn't want to put it right there on the top. But I thought it looked cute right there on the top. And oh my goodness, look how cute this little guy turned out. Leave me a comment. Let me know which one of today's DIYs was your favorite. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's DIYs. If you did, I hope you'll consider giving this video a like, maybe sharing it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button so you can craft with me in the future. It's totally free. And if you hit that little notification bell, YouTube will notify you every time I upload a video. That way you don't miss out on any future fun, budget-friendly DIYs for around the home. So until next time, happy crafting, friends. Molly says hi.